A Lake County code enforcement officer was arrested on Wednesday on suspicion of multiple felony charges after $19,000 in cash and 35 pounds of marijuana were found at his home, authorities said. Good morning and good afternoon. It is Saturday, August 17th, 2024. We hope you had a great week this week, and this is your weekly blunt wrap-up of the Blacklist XYZ. I'm your host, Jason Beck, and please remember to smash that like button as well as subscribe to the channel if you have not already, as well as drop us a comment below of what you think about this week's blunt wrap-up of the Blacklist XYZ. So let's get right into it with story number 1 in this week's blunt wrap-up of the Blacklist XYZ. A Lake County code enforcement officer was arrested on Wednesday on suspicion of multiple felony charges after $19,000 in cash and 35 pounds of marijuana were found at his home, authorities said. The Community Development Department had reported to the Lake County Sheriff's Office that one of their employees was possibly engaging in illegal activity, Community Development Director Myeria Turner said in a statement on Thursday. Following an investigation and a search, authorities arrested Antonio Chavez Antiguiano, 36, about 12:30 p.m. Wednesday night in North Lakeport, Sheriff's Office spokesperson said. He was booked into Lake County Jail in Lakeport on suspicion of 3 felony charges of extortion, solicitation, and or accepting a bribe and grand theft. He is also suspected of misdemeanor possession of marijuana for sale, you guys. Chavez is being held in lieu of $10,000 bail pending a bail source hearing, and in a quote, "Public trust is a privilege that must be protected, and there are no higher priorities to community development leadership than the integrity of our staff and ethical conduct of our work," Turner said in the statement. And this is sourced from the Press Democrat, you guys. Well, lots of corruption going on, not just in all of these counties. I know we covered a story yesterday about corruption out in Detroit, Michigan, but more and more we see corruption in regards with cannabis businesses, cannabis licensing, cannabis permitting, and now these guys, man, Lake County code enforcement officer taking bribes, taking the payouts, taking the bucks. Let's see what you guys had to say about this. And on another note, if I do happen to murder your Instagram name, I do apologize in advance. It is not intentional. And now let's see what you all have to say about this. Hash and Flower says, this should not surprise anyone. Trinity County has the same BS. The Pool UK says, that's big in Cali. The Chaldeans run a crazy criminal enterprise. Perk Up 510 says, funny how sketchy people always look sketchy. Cute. Info.from.mendo says, $10,000 bail? She got out that day. Shake my head. Well, actually, I don't believe that he did get out that day because it said he was pending a bail hearing. So who knows? That could have been increased or whatnot. I doubt it was dropped. I mean, that's only just $1,000 to get out of jail, but who knows? And I.like.cool_thing says, why does he look sad, LOL? Well, I imagine probably because he got caught scheming the system, and now he's going to have to pay his time on a cannabis crime. But nonetheless, we are going to keep this thing rolling, you guys. And moving right along into story number 2 in this week's blunt wrap-up of the Blacklist XYZ, you guys.
Also in Queens, police takedown of a massive marijuana operation. Police say it's one of the city's largest pot busts ever. Officers discovered hundreds of pounds of marijuana worth millions of dollars at a warehouse in Astoria, Queens. Eyewitness News reporter Phil Tate has more on the sophisticated operation.
Yeah, good afternoon. Neighbors tell me today that they would see fancy cars pull up outside of this warehouse and would see boxes go in and out. Never did they think that the NYPD, along with the New York City Sheriff's Office, would find hundreds of pounds of marijuana worth $5 million. This morning, the New York City Sheriff's Office have posted up these signs letting the community know that there's no business going on inside and that this warehouse is shut down. And for many of them, they're reacting. Let's take a listen.
Living in this neighborhood for 7 years, parking the car and leaving spots, you get to see things that other people don't see. And even though it's none of your business, you keep it pushing, and eventually things like this happen. And then it's not a big surprise.
$5 million of marijuana. That's a lot.
See these people doing business. I thought it was a legit business. They look all decent and innocent. I would never believe.
No, just people around there going with expensive cars inside, then put a little package in the cars.
Law enforcement tells us they even found equipment that produced vape cartridges for sale. Our cameras were rolling as hundreds of pounds were seized at the warehouse facility on 2nd Street here in Astoria. Police tell us they became aware of this when they were responding to a report of a robbery at the warehouse around 3 a.m. yesterday. Officers arrested 2 male suspects in their 30s who they said had 125 pounds of cannabis flower. They realized the suspects were taking the product from the warehouse, so they reached out to the sheriff's office, and together they moved in, making it one of the largest seizures. Now, the sheriff's office telling us there was nothing legal about this warehouse.
If it was a legitimate operation, we would have licensing, of course. There would be some type of documentation that they are a legitimate LLC or a corporation. In here, it's obvious that it's just a storage house, and we do have some intel that they are supplying other areas in New York City and outside of New York City.
Now, according to the city, more than 750 illegal smoke shops have been padlocked since the city had ramped up enforcement back in April. But the big question this afternoon is where all of this marijuana is coming from. We're in Astoria. I'm Phil Tate, Channel 7 Eyewitness News.
According to New York City, more than 750 illegal marijuana shops have been padlocked since enforcement began back in April. Thanks to the NYPD and the New York City Sheriff's Office, a Queens warehouse has now been added to that growing list, you guys. That's right. They discovered hundreds of pounds of marijuana worth, they are saying, $5 million on Thursday. And Friday morning, police were still out in front of the location as the investigation continued. They even found equipment that produced vape cartridges for sale, you guys. Eyewitness News cameras were rolling as hundreds of pounds were seized at the warehouse facility on 2nd Street in Astoria, and police tell Eyewitness News that they became aware of the drugs when they were responding to a report of a robbery at the warehouse around 3 a.m. on Thursday, you guys. Officers arrested 2 suspects, 38-year-old James Peninsky of Pennsylvania and 36-year-old John Bedencourt, who they said had 125 pounds of cannabis flower. They realized the suspects were taking the product from the warehouse and reached out to the sheriff's office, and together they moved in on the warehouse to make the bust. In a quote, they say, "This is definitely one of the largest seizures that we've had. It's not the largest, but it's one of the largest seizures," said Lieutenant Francis Rosa of the NYC Sheriff's Office. "So far, from our observations, an inventory of the product is over $5 million, he says. And the main goal is to look for places that are supplying all of these shops, they say. They also say the warehouses was supplying other areas in and outside of New York City, and this is through Eyewitness News reporting, you guys. Man, oh man, oh man. I mean, I don't buy any of these valuations that these guys put on this as $5 million. That's total malarkey. And the fact that they got caught because the place got robbed, I mean, come on, you guys. That is just crazy to me. But nonetheless, let's see what you guys have to say about this. Because NYC 420 All Day says, calculator calibration required. 5 million. 1,428 pounds at the average price. Who wants to let them know? I totally agree. Just _doing _it says, LOL, why that cop looks so sus? She looks like she ready to take some. She does look thirsty. I'm not mad at that observation. She does look thirsty. Like she's like, oh man, I'm gonna go and retrap this. I know a store that's ready to take this right now. Robbie HM3 says, need DC to follow suit. Lackluster enforcement is close to putting the legal market under. I didn't even realize that they really had a real legal market in D.C. I thought it's just basically you just proclaim that it is, and that's just what it is. It's a true free market. But I know they do have some medical permitted shops, but I'm not sure about all that. But nonetheless, Grumpy says 5 million, but they had hundreds of pounds. Even at 1,000 pounds, that come out to 10K a P, LOL. Where do I find those clients at? Well, Grumpies, I want to know too, and if you find them, let me know, because I'm interested. Murphy's_Ridge says, I love the last part of the report. Where is all the marijuana coming from? True that. I mean, federal judges are paid to believe that marijuana is dropped out of the sky in crates, so who knows where it's coming from. Moolah Lone says, panic in Oklahoma swirling. And the risk taker official says some straight BS. Some police group that keep trying to take down Empire as well. Shake my head. Shout out to Empire, what y'all got going on out there in New York. Pristines_Dogtown line says $5 million worth of weed wouldn't fit in that building. I feel you, especially with the price of weed nowadays. You know what I mean? Not even close. _Toucan_Sam says, Bubba Kush stock just took a major hit. Clout coin is dropping, bro. Fetty Guapo 1 says, they only got caught because someone tried to rob them and got caught coming out with the pounds. I feel you, bro. It's crazy to me that this is how this place got busted. Is crazy. No Clout Shaney says the math is not mathing. I agree. And Nickel Sis 86 says just because they had nice cars shouldn't be a sign. Maybe they just work for their money, unlike a lot of you bums. I mean, fair enough. I agree with you on that. Having a nice car should not be a depiction or a profiling for different individuals, but whatever. You know, it is what it is. Longtime 239 says, what a waste of time. Go fight real crime. I think that's supposed to be crime, but it says coin. I think he might have messed up in that, but all good either way. All Natural Farm says, the news showed us the snitch. Just another reason to kick out people who are born and raised on your turf. Fair point. And Uncle Buck 805 says they're like weighting the lights and shit. LOL. Man, they got to be weighing something, bro. Something heavy, because they're not coming up with $5 million with just weighing this weed alone. I'll tell you that much. You are totally right about that. And rolling right on into our third story of the day in this week's blunt wrap-up of the Blacklist XYZ, you guys. Thieves rip off a fresh harvest and cuts in Sacramento, you guys. That's right. About a month ago, we got broken into, took a truckload of weed, literally, and lowest scum of the earth. They are very diligent, organized ripoffs down here in Sacramento. Although some people, not going to say who, made it too easy for them to get in and out of the facility in 6 minutes. We are going to learn from this and make this place a fortress. Even though we had trident locks, doors, though they got through those like butter, you guys. I'll make some more story posts so other grows can better learn how to secure their facilities. And this is a shout out to Humboldt_boys in regards with this, you guys. Well, I'll tell you what, the crime spree is just rampant. The law enforcement is not doing much anything. It seems to me like Sacramento is just turning into more and more like Oakland every single day, and maybe you could even say San Francisco too, but I think the robberies on cultivations and dispensaries is much more prevalent in Oakland, but it seems like Sacramento is starting to compete in that space, and I just feel bad for all the operators that constantly have to deal with all of this extra crime and public nuisance because of the fact of these DAs not willing to prosecute people in crimes, and a lot of these laws, especially when it comes to burglarizing buildings. You know, if you burglarize a commercial space, like, you know, your first offense, you know what I mean, you're getting off with probation and not even going to jail. And I don't even think you do a county year until you get caught 5 times, and that's just not type of penalties that deter people from doing these types of acts. But nonetheless, let's say what you guys had to say about this. Carlos D'Amico, 11, says, SAC has turned into San Francisco and L.A. If you're in the flower business, you'll be targeted. It's a shit show in a shit state with soft laws, and the criminals know it. Spot on. Pixie Dork says, got $50 from the robbery. Paid for gas. Chi-Town Canachika says, call all the grow shops that rent trimmers. They need it. That's a good idea. Faded Jerry 420 says, Sacramento trappers, be extra careful who's shopping the distro these days. All it takes is one shady shopper to get their eyes on things. This is 100% right. All it takes is one bad apple to spoil the whole bunch. You're 100% right. Planet_Za says it's going to be dry by the time he get home. LOL. Takes a little bit longer than that, but nonetheless, I don't understand why people really rob grows, because it's the hardest thing to grow. It really has to be an inside job, because you have to know when the weed is just really at that right point, or else you're just putting all kinds of extra work, and you're not going to get that type of quality from it if you don't dry it and cure it properly. But nonetheless, I mean, what do I know? What do I know? Mercy Creator says, don't damage all the trichomes. And that .bearded.fck says, LOL, they won't be able to trim it fast enough. Most of it will end up too dry and unsellable. I feel you, especially in this market. Derek Uptitsky says, imagine they get home and those are all males. Now that is funny, bro. That would be classic if that was the case. Grower Groot says, the trellis netting always causing them rippers some grief. That's so true. It takes so much extra time to get stuff out of all that trellis netting. L.A_reggae says, damn, they took the cuts too? That's too savage. And Leonis_garden says, inside job for sure. How did they know it was drying already? Well, I'm not sure if it was drying already. I mean, these look like fresh plants that they just chopped down when they went up in there. I'm not sure. I'm no expert, but who, you know what I mean? That's what it looks like to me. KC Herb Garden says, I hope they sit through trim jail, then go to real jail. Fair enough. Dabs Benedict says 2 seconds in 2 seconds in. 1K says they drive off with the bed exposed/uncovered. And I'm pretty sure that they did. You would have won that bet. And Tech_farm says, it's wild watching them like smash it down in there after, I'm sure, treating it so delicacy. I feel you, bro. They so many of these growers put so much time and quality into the plants, and to see these people just rip them out of the ground like that and treat everything like that is just disheartening. I feel you, all that. The Lost Pharaoh says all that weed was spread amongst the roads as they drove away. They left a trail of crumbs, LOL. Just like Hansel and Gretel, huh? Fair enough. Trash Bandicoot says, might have to hire these guys for my next harvest because, boy, they ripping them down fast. That's funny. Gore Do Band says, every time I see something like this, the plants are never done. And Armin_626 says, I never understand how they cut it down so fast when it takes 10 employees on an 8-hour shift to harvest. IT Rap Cars _ says, after it's all said and done, it's like 7 units dried and stacked like that until it'll get dark. To which Humboldt_boys responds and says 70 units, crazy enough. That sucks, bro. I'm sorry to hear about that, you guys. Queen Reese says, oh yeah, they back at it again. They drove a car through my store. I'm sorry to hear that, Reese. And Catalyst CEO says, oh man, that just hurts. Prop 47, cashless bail, and it doesn't get likely even reported. Crime is down, they will tell us. To which the humble boys respond to Catalyst CEO and says, we did report it, which is even worse because it took 2 hours for police to show. They don't give 2 Fs, they say. Fair enough. That's what I was saying. I was like, Oakland seems like it's turning more into, or Sacramento's turning more into Oakland every day. And for Ein Forever says, I hate thieves. I couldn't agree with you more. And the last comment in this video for you guys is the Humboldt Boys, who put out this video originally. Says, thank you for the repost, Blacklist. Spread awareness on this topic. We need crop insurance. It's ridiculous that we can't. 8 years since legalization. I could not agree with you more. So sad. Sorry that happened to you guys, Humboldt Boys. And today's PSA is brought to you today by High at 9 News and the Blacklist XYZ, where we want to remind everyone that sugar is the #1 drug in America. Not to mention it is the very first drug all people are exposed to when arriving on Earth. To which the Blacklist asks, which is more dangerous? Educate yourself, my friends, and be safe out there, everyone. Rolling right along into our fourth story of the day in this week's blunt wrap-up of the Blacklist XYZ. On Wednesday, the New Jersey Civil Service Commission mandated the reinstatement of police officer Mackenzie Riley, who was dismissed in August of 2023 after a random drug test detected cannabis in his system. Alongside his reinstatement, Riley is to receive back pay and benefits. And this decision marks the third time the commission has overruled Jersey City's attempts to terminate officers for off-duty cannabis use. Despite the state attorney general's clear stance that police officers cannot be disciplined for illegally consuming cannabis while off-duty, Jersey City has terminated at least 5 officers on these grounds. The city's legal team contends that federal law prohibits cannabis users from purchasing and possessing firearms and munition and extended to police officers, thereby justifying their dismissals. Previously, the commission ordered the city to reinstate officers Omar Polanco and Norhan Mansour, and failure to comply with these orders could result in a daily fine of $200, a consequence the city now faces as it has yet to rehire these officers. Details from Wednesday's decision shed light on Riley's specific circumstances. In January of 2023, he consumed cannabis via a vape purchased from a Montclair dispensary, and a month later, a drug test revealed the presence of cannabinoids in his urine, leading to his suspension in March. A unique aspect of Riley's case resolves around his failure to disclose his cannabis use as medication on a form provided during the drug test. Judge Miller noted that since Riley's purchase was recreational and he only obtained a medical marijuana card weeks after the test, the omission did not constitute misconduct. During the commission's deliberations, there was a debate about whether Riley's non-disclosure amounted to insubordination, and Commissioner Daniel W. O'Mullian highlighted this issue, voted against Riley's reinstatement, and proposed a 3-month suspension instead. As Jersey City grapples with these rulings, the broader conversation about cannabis legalization and its implications for law enforcement employment continues to evolve, you guys, and this is sourced out of the Marijuana Herald. And man, I just want to say these cops definitely deserve to be rehired, but I do find that it does present a interesting situation for Second Amendment rights in regards to, because I do know that law enforcement officers in New Jersey, they have to purchase their own weapons and whatnot. They are not actually issued. Excuse me. But nonetheless, you guys, man, oh man, oh man, I feel for these guys. I hope they ultimately get reinstated. But what about this $200 fine? I mean, to me, that seems like a very low fine for a municipality to have to be paying. Like, there's not a lot of or I would say motivation for them to fix it in any time soon. So I think that should be a lot higher, maybe like 20,000 or something like that. But nonetheless, let's hear what you guys have to say about this. Mr. _T83 says he can be a cop, smoke weed, and own a gun. I know, right? That's why I think it's going to be an interesting Second Amendment rights argument, but we shall continue. Dubavelli says, I don't like cops, but I would rather have stone cops than roided alike cops. I feel you on that. The official Hysham says, if they prosecuted us for so long, they shouldn't be able to ever use it. I don't know if I necessarily agree with that, but everyone's allowed to have their own debates. And to which Dan _0707 says, steroids or weed debate, you guys. To which your run Chaled says, The range of anabolic androgenic steroids encompasses many compounds that have varying effects. I'm not worried about Anavar, but I am worried about Trenebolone. Some people get less violently aggressive on testosterone, just like violent stoners exist. I think steroids should be legal without a prescription. Interesting perspective, you guys. I'm not too sure, but nonetheless, I mean, the cops do need to be strong to deal with a lot of crime, and you know what I'm saying? But I'm not sure if steroids are necessarily the answer, but the debate will continue. And rolling right along into our fifth and final story of the day in this week's blunt wrap-up of the Blacklist XYZ.
Arrest a teacher accused of giving marijuana to one of his students. 50-year-old Damian Andre is a teacher at Cottonwood Verde Tech School. Police say he had marijuana vape and fluid delivered to the school. They gave it to a 15-year-old. He faces charges of supplying marijuana and tobacco to a minor. We reached out to the school for comment, have not heard back just yet.
This comes out of Cottonwood, Arizona, you guys. That's right. An Arizona teacher accused of providing marijuana to one of his students has been arrested, you guys. Man, oh man. Cottonwood police say 50-year-old Damian Andre, a teacher at Cottonwood Verde Tech School, was arrested on August 14th. Investigators say Andre had marijuana vaping fluid delivered to the school, where he gave it to a 15-year-old student, you guys. In a quote, the investigation began when the student's parent reported the teacher's inappropriate actions to authorities, police said. Andre is accused of supplying marijuana and tobacco to a minor. And this comes out of Fox 10 in Phoenix, you guys. Well, first of all, I do not condone any type of giving cannabis to a minor for any reason really whatsoever, unless that cannabis is prescribed to that minor for some type of serious illness or whatnot, debilitating condition that definitely needs to go all the way through a doctor. I think this guy probably deserves what he has coming to him, and I'm just personally not in favor of people enabling minors in things like this. But nonetheless, let's see what you guys have to say real quick. Because Johnny_77K says, teenagers just don't know how to keep their mouth shut. Now you got the homie in trouble. I mean, that's not lying. Kids always are snitching. That is very, very true. Entheogens_LA says, LOL, I remember my math teacher was mayor of the small city I lived in. He knew I sold nickel and dimes of weed, and he asked me if I thought if it would be a good idea to give dispensaries approval to open up in the city. I said, hell no. He laughed and said, oh, because it would affect your business. R.I.P. He was a good one. Nice. Thanks for sharing that. CatelRay123 says, I'm pretty sure the administrator of ADHD medication at school, that's pretty much meth. Good on the teacher for pushing plant meds. That's a very interesting perspective, too. I mean, that is a very interesting perspective right there. Grim.713 says, bro is fried in his mugshot. He does look kind of lit. That is true. And the Pure Effect Puma says, look between the lines. He's probably a creep trying to groom a kid. He looks like a creep. I mean, I hope that's not the case, but you never know. Hope not. And WarDaddy_actual says, okay, but did he F the student? I sure as hell hope not, and that is not what they should be doing. They should be trying to teach these kids and not all this extraness that is going on. But nonetheless, thank you all for tuning in to this week's weekend episode of the Blunt Wrap-Up of the Blacklist XYZ. I'm your host, Jason Beck, and make sure to tune in to High at 9 News every Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific and high noon on the East Coast for America's #1 daily cannabis news show, High at 9 News, as well as continue to comment on all of the posts the Blacklist XYZ and the Blacklist post throughout the week for your chance to be featured on next week's Blunt Wrap-Up of the Blacklist XYZ. Have a fantastic weekend, and don't forget to smash that like button on your way out and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, as well as drop a comment down below with what you think about this weekend's Blunt Wrap-Up of the Blacklist XYZ, brought to you by High at 9 News and Cloud Media Partners. Have yourself an amazing and safe weekend, everyone.